Today I'm going to talk to you about feces and urine. Yes, you got me right. Poo and pee. Now, I want you to think just for a moment, what do you call feces and urine in your local language? Just think about that for a minute. I bet it sounds like an insult. In most cultures, if not all, the mention of feces and urine is considered offensive and even impolite, while it is part of our everyday lives. Even to mention the term toilet, we find it difficult. We'd rather say powder room, restroom, bathroom, small room, and so on. And when we want to use the toilet, we end up using terms such as nature cause. At some point, we all have to go after all, don't we? Now, the issue of sanitation is about safely managing human excreta. The World Health Organization defines sanitation as the provision of facilities and services for the safe disposal of human excreta. Now, just imagine ourselves without any sanitation facilities. And why is sanitation so important? According to the United Nations, almost half the world population, that is close to 4 billion people, do not have access to self-sanitation. And this is mostly in Africa and some parts of Asia, mostly the developing world. And here in Zambia, the Ministry of Health estimates that diarrhea diseases as a result of poor sanitation amongst the top leading causes of death for children. And that just between the period 1977, the country has had 31 cholera outbreaks. And between 1999 to 2017, we've had over 61,000 cases reported, with 1,800 deaths. On the other hand, the World Bank reports that Zambia loses $194 million United States dollars per annum, which is equivalent to 1.3% of our GDP. And these costs are mostly due to a loss in productivity, the healthcare costs, and again, the deaths to children. These figures do not include the unaccounted for damage which is caused to the cognitive development of our children, which later in their lives affects their intellectual capacity and ability to be innovative and meaningful, contribute to development. In terms of access in Zambia, it's not different. Nationally, access to self-sanitation is only about 58%. And it's worse in the rural areas, which is just at about 32%, with 11% still practicing open defecation. Now, having a toilet does not equate having self-sanitation. In Lusaka, where we are here, the capital city of Zambia, we have 75% of our poo and pee not being safely managed. which means that it's left in the environment, which is a major risk to the health of the population. A study by Tembo and others in 2017 showed that in Lusaka alone, that's why here, we produce 22,000 tons of poo. That is 22 million kilograms per annum. Now, that is a lot of poo and pee. What can we do to manage this waste, which we've seen that it's a danger. It causes loss of lives, impacts on our economic well-being. Apart from self-sanitation, bringing dignity and improving the health of our people, as well as protecting the environment, there is money to be made. There's money to be made out of poo and pee. And this can be done by entering into sustainable sanitation business along the sanitation value chain. Remember, as I said, having a toilet does not mean that you've got self-sanitation. We need to manage the sanitation from source by collecting it, transporting it, treating it, and safely reusing and recovering the resources. Green jobs can be created, specifically targeting the youth and the small, medium enterprises, work along this value chain, sanitation value chain. The private sector can be involved. They can give credit for households to construct self-sanitation. They themselves can be involved in the construction of household toilets, the transportation of the human excreta. They can also be involved in the construction and management of public toilets as well. Now, the value which is there is actually in the resource recovery and reuse. This is an area that's not been exploited much. And I just mentioned some of the 4 valuable resources that can be recovered. In view of this increasing value, resources that can be recovered from the poo and pee, it is now globally increasingly being referred to as the brown gold. So the 4 resources that can be recovered, firstly, we've got energy. We can make biogas by capturing the methane through a process of anaerobic digestion. And we know that methane is actually 30 times more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So by doing that, we are contributing to the mitigation against climate change. From energy, again, we can make fuel briquettes as a substitute for the fossil fuels of firewood and charcoal. Again, contributing to the mitigation and climate change. There's also increasingly work being done to see how carbon credits can be traded by safely managing our sanitation. So you can imagine all this sanitation, 75% in Lusaka, which is just going to waste. We capture it, treat it, we get paid carbon credits. So there's money to be made. Secondly, fertilizer. Human excreta is rich in nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. So we can have this organic fertilizer as a substitute to the chemical fertilizers, which we know that chemical fertilizers are not only bad for our soils, but they're also expensive, and prone to supply chain disruptions, as we've seen in the recent past. Thirdly, we can get protein and calcium, which can be used as animal feed by growing the black larva soldier fly. Fourthly, we can get water from the treatment processes. The water can be treated and even reused, even for drinking. But also, more importantly, it can be reused for agriculture. Here in Zambia, we have the National Water Supply and Sanitation Council, NAWASCO, that in 2018 developed the on-site sanitation and fecal sludge management framework, which actually now gives us the regulatory framework to enter into the sanitation business. And I had the opportunity, when I led the Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company in 2017-2022, to enter into this business, whereby we constructed 5,000 household toilets in the peri-urban areas of Lusaka, the low-income areas of George, Chawama, and Kanyama, so that we can capture the human excreta. We contracted 12 private sector players to transport the waste to the two treatment plants which we constructed. And the process now ongoing to add value and recover the resources where the money can actually be made. This sanitation economy is being practiced around the world. For example, in Kenya, in India, Uganda, and Ghana. And just to give an example of the value, in Kenya, it is a $350 million per year in the industry. So you can see the value which is there. Renowned people around the world, such as Bill Gates, through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, have also entered into the sanitation business. And they're concentrating on what they're terming the reinvented toilet, where they're looking at having a toilet that does not use external resources like energy, there's power and water, but instead, from our human excreta, we produce these valuable resources of water and the nutrients. Without safely managed sanitation, we cannot meet our developmental aspirations, specifically also meeting the SDGs. Let us therefore make poo our business. Thank you.